Well, hey, everybody. It's great to be with you. I want to, first of all, thank you for being a part of a group and walking through Matthew chapter 10, this next series, part of this series in Matthew's Gospel, with the rest of our entire church family. So glad that you are doing this, whether you're starting a group maybe for the first time, you're hosting, very excited about that, or you are reconnecting with your group, or you've been in a group for a while and your group has decided to walk through this chapter in Matthew chapter 10 with us, excited that we are doing this together as a church. And now that you're maybe settled, I don't know, in a living room, in a dorm room, I want to recap for just a few minutes what we talked about from Matthew chapter 9, verse 35, all the way through chapter 10 and verse 4. You'll remember that Jesus goes through the crowds, or he has a lot of crowds coming to him, and as he goes from village to village, town to town, he sees all the crowds. He sees all of the people. And Matthew's very clear that Jesus was not angry with them. Instead, he was moved with compassion for them. And the reason is because they were harassed and helpless. And then you'll remember there's this metaphor or this imagery of sheep without a shepherd. If you were a first century Jew, or an Israelite reading this for the first time in the first century, that imagery of sheep and shepherd would have been like a light bulb turning on for you. The reason is because so much of the Old Testament carries this imagery of sheep and shepherd. And Jesus sees the crowds like sheep. I don't know if you know, but sheep are among the least intelligent animals on the planet. They will eat anything in front of them, even if it's poisonous, even if it's good for them. They will eat it until they gorge themselves, even to death, without a shepherd. Sheep were susceptible to wild animals all the time if they didn't have a shepherd. Wolves, coyotes, bears, lions. If they didn't have a shepherd, they were vulnerable to that. Even sheep would often walk in circles because they had no sense of direction unless they had a shepherd. And so Jesus looks at the crowd and draws upon this imagery that would have connected to everybody who heard him. They were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. And he had compassion on them. And you'll remember we talked about how we asked ourselves as a church, when we see people, is our first reaction to be compassionate toward them? Because Jesus was. Or is it to be angry with them, maybe a behavior that we don't like or something like that? Do we realize that Jesus had compassion first for people? And then Jesus turns to his disciples in verse 37. And this is a key shift in Matthew's gospel and for the disciples. He turns to the disciples and he says, here's the situation and here's what you need to do about it. You must do about it. The situation was this: the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. It's not just any harvest, it's a plentiful harvest. The root word for plenty is, plentiful is plenty. There's a lot of people, but the workers are few. That's the situation. When you look around at the office or at school, on your campus, or anywhere you go, do you realize, do you see what Jesus sees? A great harvest, but few workers. And so Jesus says to his disciples then, ask the Lord of the harvest. In other words, pray earnestly, he says, to the Lord of the harvest to send out workers. That's you and me, by the way. And I don't know if you know, if you are a believer, you are an answer to this prayer. Somebody prayed, Lord, send out workers into the harvest field. And somebody came to you, shared the gospel with you, and you became a laborer as well in the gospel. It's interesting because Jesus, the first thing that he says is not take action and go do stuff. The first thing that he says to his disciples is to pray, and to pray earnestly. And so in your group, and throughout this entire series, I'm going to be regularly calling us as a church to do that. Pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out workers. We are on the verge of 4 locations and lots of people around us. And we need workers. God needs workers. And so we need to ask him to send them out because he will do it. Enjoy your time together. I hope your study is great, and we'll see you next week. God bless you all.